Good morning, everybody, and welcome back. This is Pete Dahlgren, and we're working on wings. And one of the biggest things that had to do when I was getting ready to do these, I sheeted the tops of my wings, and I was waiting for landing gear and other things else to start to show up. Now, as you see, I've got my hands full here, but there are some points that I do want to bring up to you and explain to you how these hatches go together. Now, these are not, I got a mess up right here. I had a blister in the wing over there to do this, but these are the Mears Models hatch covers. Now, they are designed with the intention of pinch fitting the servo on the plates that are underneath here. Now, it's very important that you have the servos you're going to use. And what we're going to do here is we are actually going to, in fact, it's almost kind of like burying the servo in the wing. Now, I did almost the same exact thing on the bottom of the stabilizers, but I made my own on that. But these I wanted to actually do this. Now, the thing is, I have every single option for this jet that Mears makes. And the one thing is that I wanted to bring up and talk a little bit about things. And as I said before, when we were installing these parts, there are some little modifications to make. Now, I am using high-tech servos. I'm using 625Ds. These are very good. They're like 135 ounce, and they're high voltage and extremely fast. I love these servos. They work very well for me. Now, in the next few videos, I'm going to be talking about the wiring I'm doing and everything else. And like I told a lot of guys, I am doing my own wiring harnesses, but you got to be very careful about where you are putting them in and through. And basically they will be running through here, diagonally through there. Make sure that your stop tube is there. They'll run through here and all the way up to the front. I have a wing nut that needs to be put in that. And I've cut a lot of this off. I'm getting ready to sand and true the wing up. But doing this, I sat around for a little bit and figured out what's going on here. There are some pieces of plywood parts. I'm doing this kind of one-handed. You're going to notice there are a couple different sizes. And these are enough for both of the deal. But basically what you want to do is you want to set your servo about where it's going to fit the best. And I just run a straight edge over it. And as you can see, once the lid is on it with a straight edge over it, it's very, very close. It actually, once you put it down, there's no chance of it coming out. Now, what we got to do here on this is actually, you may have to put a little bit of glue on it to hot glue that down a little bit. But what we're going to be doing is actually gluing these pieces, these shorter ones, so they actually sit in. I'm doing this all one-handed. And basically what we're going to be doing is setting these down like so. This will come in like this, but what we're doing in here is that once all this sits in there, that will sit just like that. Okay, you want to make sure that you have taken this completely and centered this. Most importantly, guys, I am using aluminum arms, okay? It's very, very extremely important that when you set these up, that you're looking at your throw, okay? That is entirely way too far up. So what we will do is we'll pull it down so it reaches the center. Okay? And you're going to make sure that all this is all pretty much in its place. These longer pieces are actually, in fact, the bracing, and it's actually correct spacing for that, which will actually keep that from teetering. This is where you want to put these in. You're going to have to make a space for your screws in there. I'm using parts of my scrap plywood that it was used for the jig, and I will just simply cut some triangles in there and put them in. This will not take all that long to do, but you do want to go in there and glue that in, and don't CA it. Do not use CA on this. Now what I'm doing here is I am going and double checking with a couple pieces of balsa that I will be using for actually the, you want to make sure that's fairly square. I'm not clamping anything because I'm dry fitting. I will clamp this down with clamps, lots of them, when I get ready to actually glue that down. You're going to notice that this will butt right up to it and perfectly, and there'll be very, very minimal sanding involved. Now, the one thing that we want to make sure is that these are shooting completely straight. Don't try to cock them in any way, shape, or form. Make sure they're straight. And that's exactly why I have not installed any of the horns. Now the horns, you gotta assemble them with whatever you're gonna be using. And the flap one is the straight one. These are for the aileron, which is the one we will be putting in there. And you're gonna wanna actually take and tighten this down to where it's actually straight. You want to glue a piece of wood in there for a spacer. Just make sure that this is completely tight like so, and it's completely square. Don't put them in like that. Make sure they're absolutely square. Put these on a table and take your time on this. You're going to want to make this and box this in. Measure what you need on your ball, on whatever linkages you're using, and make sure that this is straight. Because what will happen is then after this is done, these are actually pretty damn close to where they want to be. What will happen is when you take your aileron, and this one is not finished, what will happen is when you, what did I do with that damn thing? Okay. What you will do, excuse me, I'm still getting over here. You're going to want to take this piece and you're going to want to line this up. And you're going to find out that they're going to need a little bit of trimming, but nothing real big. And once you've glued that, you can put these in, but what you want to do is get that absolutely in a the straightest line you possibly can up to that. Let me get a clamp. Hold on a second here. Talks amongst yourself. I'm engineering. So anyway. Okay, sorry about that. Basically what will happen is when all these parts are put in and that is sheeted, these don't really need too much trimming. They will need a little bit. But what I will do, it's important that you keep these linkages as short as you possibly can. You know, you're losing a lot of torque in this. And again, this is just lightly clamped. Another thing that I got to put in on the other side are the blocks for all of the hinges. And I'm doing that today. And we're going to start getting this the wing ready to sheet up. But I had a couple of things I needed to repair, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about what I did. And it was me getting in a hurry. And this is something that you can't do with this jet, especially on these wings. But there are a lot of explanations, and there's an awful lot of stuff that's going in on this. And it's just, I got to order some more wood, and I ordered another 20 sheets. So anyway, we're going to build this, and it should look pretty amazing. Now, another thing that I do on the leading edge is, like I told you guys, I will stick this in. This is 1/4 by 3/8. And I will stick this through the leading edge. And it really does actually help it a lot. It gives it a better gluing surface, and it's not a big deal. So it doesn't cost that much to do it, and it doesn't add enough weight to even get excited about. So that's what I'm doing. Now, once we get all this done, we get the wire, we get this set up for the MPX connectors, get the wing bolt in it. I have them, I just haven't done it. I got to go down and get some more epoxy and a couple other things. But I want to reiterate that it's very, very, very important that when you have built this wing, you sheeted the other side, that you have double checked everything. You make sure you have plenty of weight and you've used enough spreaders on this to get it. And that's exactly why I will sheet this whole entire top of the wing. Next thing is the order of business is, and let me grab a retract because I'm still waiting on the legs to show up. And I think one of the biggest things is that it's extremely important that when you get your retracts and stuff, and these are ProLink Hercules, these are rated pretty damn nicely. You want to make sure that everything you got in here is going to be more than big enough. Now, this was set up for electric gear. And what I'm going to have to do, and I'm going to demonstrate this with a piece of scrap in here for the legs. And this is, you want to get some aircraft plywood. And you're going to want to build this block that sits in there, but you want it to go all the way through. Now, to do this, what I intend to do is I will laminate one of these and some 1/8" aircraft plywood on this. And you can do it either way. Laminated wood is the way to rock and roll on this, guys. Don't just go and get a big piece and then file this out. Fit it and make this work to where it's going to be. Now, I do this, and what I will do is I will actually cut these notches out, and I will make this one big block in there, and then I will cut this out only to fit the retract. And then I will drill it, and I will install the bolts, and this will be, and it should work out to be really an amazing piece. Now, when I get ready to do all this, I will run under here. I will drill this out. Also, I will drill 2 holes. And this will be where my air lines run in, because this will actually be, they will actually run. Actually, I won't do that. I'll run that because the landing gear has to, it's going to have to sit right about in here. If this was a reversible deal, then this would sit about right like that on your, it would sit like this with your Electron. But we're running air retracts, and so this is how we're going to roll with this. Now, these are got plenty of room. There's plenty of room, does not need any more than what it's already got. And but it will sit about approximately right here. And I got to wait for the leg to come in so I can measure that. But the height is perfect, and they should sit just about, height should sit just about in there, but you want to absolutely make sure that you centered that. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to take a measurement between this point, that point and go dead smack in the middle, and then we can go on the center line on that and actually do this. You can do it with a micrometer, you can do it any way you want to. As long as you get a center line, you're fine. And you're going to need to make sure that that is completely and dead centered on that block, because if you don't, your landing gear is going to go in different directions. We don't want that. So, and that's why we want to absolutely make sure that we have the leg that goes in here, and then we can modify any of these cuts in here. It's extremely important that you have everything that you need to go inside this wing before you start flipping it over and cutting it apart and getting it set up. I already know all that's there for this. I already have everything for this. Everything is inside the jet that needs to be in there for now, but I cannot emphasize anymore how important it is that you have everything that you need before you start gluing and hacking into your wing, because you got one shot at it. Do one, check it, do the other while the other one's drying, go back and do this and do that. Make sure you're on a table that you can actually work with, and I'm going to get everything off here before I really start going crazy on there and doing this. But getting a plan together on there and understanding how all these parts work is absolutely very, 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 and probably the most important part of this. Once these are all done and I've run wires and I've got all this, then I will begin to start getting other parts made. We're going to start putting in blocks for the hinges. We're going to start drilling holes and start doing other things like this to get this together. This is my counterweight to my my rudder. And I taped it there so I wouldn't lose it, and then I just found it. How does that work? But anyway, I've got a lot of things going. We're just about ready to start hinging, but once this is all done and all these parts are made, then we will remove 90% of the things. We'll tuck parts into the wings. And then we can go through and actually get into the nuts and bolts of this thing and really make everything happen. Now, I'm going to be coming very close to showing you guys a lot of the thing and how to make. And one of the things I do is I make my own wiring harnesses for everything I do, because I like them to have a little bit of extra in there. Not that it's because of weight, because I don't care about weight. I've got plenty of power and my airplane is not that heavy. But the redundancy of having wires and things that we're doing is actually very important, that it's done correctly. And actually, we'll talk a little bit about that now. Now, a lot of you guys that are seeing a lot of these ends that just aren't long enough. Now, I buy these. I buy these pin connectors, and they're not expensive. And I actually buy the kit. One thing that I do with these things is I actually buy these, and then I have all of the ends and things that I will ever need for this jet. And I've got two different styles, and then I have all these pieces and parts so that they are there. There's a couple different kinds of wires. This is lighting wire that I'll run through the wings. I have two of these. This is my controller, which will get mounted somewhere, and then I have hundreds of feet of this beautiful high-tech wire. And you buy it 3-color heavy gauge, 50 feet of actual high-tech wire. Use high-tech servos, use high-tech wire, why not? It's not that much money. And then in my little tool drawer, if I can find it, I bought a crimper. These can be a son of a bitch to figure out, so I'm going to show you. And there is a trick to it, and we will be talking about that because I'm getting ready to start doing some wiring. And I can actually these are going to have to be cut and soldered and actually lengthened. I'm going to show you how I do that with these. And there's a lot of things I do actually make myself. And these controllers have a lot of pieces and parts that go to them, and they need to be treated like kid gloves. And this is a 4-channel system. That's the power inlet, of course, and all that. And this is going to run my strobes, my wings, and everything else. But some things need to be run in parallel. And since I'm not doing headlights, I very easily could add those. I'm saying uncle when it comes to that, because I've got so many other things going on in here that I don't want it too busy, but I do want the details, and I want certain things and scale things to work. That's why I opted not to do the landing lights. It just, to me, it's just, I don't know. Then again, I may change my mind on that. It's just where where it is. I may change my mind on it. Depends on how well everything else turns out on everything else. The jets turn out amazing, so we'll see where we're at. The one thing is, there's just so many things to build and so many things to consider. And you want to make sure you have all your rods and your parts. Another thing I'm going to show you guys, I'm actually running. I'm not going to use those plastic. I refuse to use them. The arms are just, to me, I just can't wrap myself around using something when you can put that in there. And these are just a better deal. They bolt up. And these are just so much better. Less chance of them stripping out. These are just awesome. And these are RC car parts, by the way. But they work extremely well. They got a nice thick lip on them. And, you know, if they'll take a 50-mile-an-hour crash with that servo doesn't stand a chance. So anyway, the thing is what we're going to be doing here within the next few episodes, just starting getting systems built and done. But again, it's also very important that you guys understand that you have to have a programmable high-speed servo for any of these applications. They need to match. Don't throw a 6 or 1225 and then a 1356 and something else on the other side and just making them work. You have to match these servos. That for the wings, for your elevator, they need to be identical. They need to have the same rate, and they need to be programmable so you can get the rates out so you don't burn them up. The rudder and my steering servo are matched, but there's also a limiter switch that goes up, so when the gear is done, it shuts the front one off, so it doesn't move around when it's in there. And I'll explain that a little bit more as we get to that. And once we get the gear and other things going on here, and the rest of these parts actually showing up, then when we will really start talking more about how everything is and how it's going to work. And again, the power system to the cockpit and that is its own, and it's its own entity. The servo that runs the actuators run on a reducer, so it only runs on 6 volt and not the 7.2 that the rest of the airplane is. And I'll explain that even more and how that's going to work out. There are a few little things that you need to be doing. Now that the pilot is animated and he's on his own power system, and so is the HUD and all the rest of the gear in there, it's a 6 volt system. And not trying to make it even more crazy, the engine is on its own battery, but the airplane is running on two 2C lipos that were actually at 7.2 volts, and that's all high voltage. The air system is also just another servo that runs in there, but we don't have a lot of, there's not a lot of things that are going to be running around for a lot of oddball systems in here. So anyway, I got another call coming in. Anyway, guys, I'm going to come back after I glue this one up and set these up in here, and then I will be back to show you the result of how that actually is in fact working. I'll see you in the funny papers.